Hey everybody, Jake here. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today I wanted to talk some Cleveland Browns. I wanted to talk a little bit about their future at quarterback. I'll throw in here how this Myles Garrett trade request has really thrown a wrench in what I thought my offseason plan was for the Browns. I thought we had a pretty straightforward plan to get back to being a competitive team, being a playoff team, contending for a Super Bowl. With this Myles Garrett trade request, it can complicate things, but I wanted to talk about this offseason and what I think the Browns can do at quarterback going forward. Also, let me know what you guys think of this lighting. This might be the new go-to with the lighting. Typically, I have my big headlight on in the back, but I'm going to try this up, see if this is a little better. So let me know what you think of that. Okay, let's jump into this. So my initial plan for the Browns, what I thought was just the most straightforward path for them. You keep Myles Garrett. That was when the trade talk was not even thought of. It was after the season they had talked. Myles had talked to the front office. Things seemed to have been mended, at least for the time being. Obviously, that's not the case. But the initial plan for me was, okay, hit on your picks in this draft. Draft a guy like Abdul Carter. Attain assets in the second, third rounds, fourth rounds. Accumulate some talent. Get a development quarterback later in the draft. And then sign a veteran. Now with the Myles Garrett trade request, it just really depends on whenever you trade him and how that would happen. But the initial guy on my list was Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields. Those were the two names, and I still, even with the Myles Garrett trade request, still stand by those two names as guys that I think would make a lot of sense for Cleveland and guys that can get you back to where you want to be. So let's talk about the first guy, Kirk Cousins. There was a report, I saw it on X. Somebody had reported, well, it's kind of getting reported everywhere at this point, that the Browns are a team to look for in the Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones sweepstakes. Let's hope we just avoid Daniel Jones. I'm really not interested in something like that. But Kirk Cousins would make a lot of sense for the Browns. Now, with two factors, though. Is Myles Garrett on the team next year? If Myles Garrett is on the team next year, I think Kirk Cousins makes a ton of sense for the Browns. Kirk Cousins is a good enough quarterback. He didn't have a great year last year. I have his stats here on the year: 67% completion rate, 3,500 yards. He only played in 13 games. It might have even been 12 and a half games because he might have got benched for Michael Penix at some point late in the season. I think that did happen. So it was more like 12 and a half games, and he'd thrown for 18 touchdowns, 16 picks, 88.6 QBR. It wasn't very, quarterback rating. It wasn't very good. It wasn't a very good year for Kirk Cousins. He was also coming off an Achilles injury. So take that for what you will, but I think it makes a lot of sense for the Browns. Kevin Stefanski was the offensive coordinator in Minnesota whenever Kirk was there, and it was a pretty good relationship. So to fit Kirk Cousins into a scheme like this makes a ton of sense. Also, with the Browns going back to this heavy zone run attack, I think it makes a ton of sense for them to bring him in. Also, another year of rehabbing this Achilles injury. This was also his first year back from Achilles surgery and recovery and rehab. So what to put all the pressure on Kirk like he had to come back and be a world beater, I don't know how fair it was. So I think if you bring in Kirk Cousins, it raises the Browns' floor at least. Does it result in a? I don't know. I almost feel like we shouldn't even be talking in that way right now just because we're a 3-win team. But do I think the Browns are far off? No. 2 years ago, the Browns had 11 wins and made the playoffs. They had one of the best defenses in the NFL, and things were clicking offensively with Joe Flacco. And if you can do it with Joe Flacco, I'm certain you can do it with Kirk Cousins. So if the Browns get back here next year and are this heavy zone run team, maybe you go get a couple running backs, you bring in a quarterback like Kirk Cousins that's serviceable to get you through. To say the Browns can't win 10, 11, 12 games, that's crazy talk. I just don't think the Browns are as far off as everybody makes it seem. You got to revamp some things. You do have holes up and down your roster, yeah, but it's not like the Browns are a very far off team in my opinion. I talk about Kirk Cousins first because I really think Myles Garrett will be here next year. I think he's going to come back. I think they're going to try to get this thing back together. I know he's went on a couple radio things and said that how it's over with the Browns, it's over. But Kobe Bryant also said that he would never dribble a basketball for the Lakers again, and he did. The Browns can mend this. You have a good offseason, win the offseason, you're right back in contention. Miles is here. I say all this with the Kirk Cousins thing if Myles Garrett is here next year. The risks that you have with Kirk Cousins is he is 36 years old, and again, he's coming off an Achilles injury. Is this a foolproof method? No. I don't know that the Browns truly have a foolproof method to fix the quarterback situation that they've dug themselves in with the Deshaun Watson contract. There is guys like Aaron Rodgers out there. There's guys like Matthew Stafford out there. There's guys like Geno Smith out there. But do any of those guys take you to for sure the next level, and they're a for sure home run, they're going to get you back to where you want to be? No. I think Kirk Cousins makes a lot of sense because of the familiarity. You can get him for relatively cheap. He's probably going to get cut by Atlanta this offseason. At some point, I think if you go in this direction, this at least raises your floor, and maybe you can convince Miles to stay with the Kirk Cousins acquisition. He's also an adult. He's mature. He's been in the league for many, many years. It makes a lot of sense. He's a great leader. He's a great human. I think the city would love him. Just something to think about. I like Kirk Cousins a lot for the Browns if Myles Garrett's here and we're focusing on contending next year. Now, let's jump into the scenario. Say you get to June, July, Myles Garrett is not going to play for the Browns. You'd probably even know before that, probably soon after the draft, I would have to imagine. Or maybe you'd even know a little bit before the draft. This is just a weird situation. This is a pretty unique situation for the Browns. Certainly the first time I've seen something like this with my team. Never a dull moment with the Browns, right? Let's say Myles Garrett will not play for the Browns. You can't convince him to stay. He wants to be traded. Okay, we're going to trade Myles Garrett. Then we need to look in a different direction, because if you don't have Myles Garrett, you're probably going to lose guys like Denzel Ward, and you're going to lose some of the veterans on the team that you've had around a long time. So at quarterback then, I move my thought to Justin Fields. Moving over to Justin Fields, he played in 6 games last year with the Steelers, posting 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. You also have the rushing upside with Justin Fields. I just don't believe he's ever truly had a fair shake in the NFL. And if you brought in a young guy like this, an Ohio State guy, go Bucks, by the way, the city would love Justin Fields, first of all. How could they not? And then you give a guy a chance. In Chicago, he's a young guy trying to learn his way in the NFL, and then you take him over to Pittsburgh, and it was just that weird Russell Wilson situation. You bring him into the Browns, and you say, hey, it's your team. This is your go. We're going to put you in the best position to succeed. You have a great draft. You bring in some talent, and you revamp some of this offense for him. I think the wrinkle with Justin Fields having this rushing upside, it's a very loose comparison, but like similar body type, similar play style to a guy like Jalen Hurts, and that guy just won the Super Bowl. Am I saying that Justin Fields is as good as Jalen Hurts? Absolutely not. We've never seen Justin Fields really break through. And then even whenever he was in Pittsburgh, he looked good, but there's a reason they didn't play him the rest of the year. So, and you choose a guy like Russell Wilson over him. So if you bring in a guy like Justin Fields, I think there's a lot to be excited about. If you're a Browns fan, what a Myles Garrett trade looks like, you're probably going to trade for 2026, 2027 picks, and what players can you bring in with that deal? I'm not sure. I'm going to do another video at some point going through possible Myles Garrett packages, trade packages for Myles Garrett, and just to see what that might look like. But that's my thought, man. If you're going to contend next year, if you're going to go for it all, and you're really going to try to win this thing, you got to bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins. If Myles isn't staying, then you kind of got to uproot this thing. There's really no in between here. If Myles is here, you got to go for it. If he's not, well, then we got to get back into the 3, 4, 5 year rebuild, retooling of this roster. So bringing a guy like Justin Fields, if it doesn't work, I think it would be a really good thing for the Browns if Miles doesn't stay. My ideal scenario, Miles stays, this all smooths over. The Browns hit a home run in the draft, bring in a veteran like Kirk Cousins. It doesn't even have to be Kirk Cousins. Just bring in a veteran that will make you believe in this team and that they're going to win. That's just what I've been thinking for the Browns at quarterback in these two scenarios, the unique situation that we're in. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about the quarterbacks that I laid out. And if there's a name out there that I didn't say, leave it in the comment section below. Let me know you guys' thoughts. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching. Go Brownies, baby.